Today we're going to be covering the 9 essential kicks that anyone should master if they want to go from a beginner to expert in the game of Taekwondo. If you don't know who I am, my name is Master Danny Lee, and I went from being super unathletic to becoming 2024 US National Champion. And today what we're going to cover is ins and outs, the basic fundamentals and common mistakes that a lot of people make so we could fast track your progress and become a true master. Let's go get it. So for the front kick, also known as apchagi in Korean, you're going to come into your stance over here first. I'd like a balanced stance, so about 50-50 on both legs. Have your hands in a nice position. And what we're going to focus on first is being able to bring your knee from the back straight up nice and high while you use this supporting leg to be a nice base. So after we can bring our knee up like this and you have a nice stable base, instead of a swing, you want to think of more of a snap. So we're going to work on snapping that leg out, all while keeping our balance. And then when we put it down, whether it's putting it down in front or bringing it back, we want to make sure that we're in a good position to work on to the next kick. So for example, from here, I want to land in a nice stance. And if I'm bringing it back to the same stance, I want to be able to land in a nice stance. So when drilling the apchagi or the snap kick, we're going to be using one of these Taekwondo style paddles. You always want to make sure that the ridges over here are facing downwards, and then you're going to turn your partner's wrist sideways so you have a nice contact area. Once it's here, you're going to take a step back and you're going to work on bringing your knee up and snapping it out and getting that perfect connection with the pad. And once you drop, I want you to land in a nice stance before coming back. So today, I want you guys to be going over 30 reps each leg, and we're gonna go for 3 sets. So I'll show you an example from here. And then once you land in your nice stance, I want you to step back and then reset. The roundhouse kick is also known as 돌려차기 in Korean. And this is going to be our next basic kick coming along in this series. So once you come into your stance, we're going to think about a snap kick. Just like earlier, we're going to bring that knee up straight. And once I can have that nice straight base, I'm going to think about turning this knee 45 degrees to the side. So how do I do that? I'm going to focus on the pivoting foot first. So before I step, I'm going to make sure that I can lift this heel slightly. So then that way I have a nice pivot point. So I'm not getting caught on the floor like this. So I want to lift the heel slightly. I'm going to bring the knee up, and instead of going straight up, I'm going to cut an angle. Once I have that angle, same as earlier, I'm going to try and snap it and then bring it down. Now, for a traditional roundhouse kick, you want to think about hitting a 90-degree angle. So if this is straight, I want you guys to be thinking about kicking sideways, right? So we're going to go straight, and then if you can hit this 90-degree pivot and kick it, that's great. But if you're still beginning, then I want you guys to just try and get at least 45 degrees. So even if it's 45 degrees like this, no problem. I want you guys to go through that, and then eventually you guys will get more range of motion through the kick. So full speed. So when going to drill for the roundhouse kick, also known as the 돌려차기, we're going to come to our partner, and that partner is going to be using the same hand that I'm using my leg to kick with. So if I'm going for a right leg roundhouse kick today, my holder will be holding with their right hand. They're going to hold it just about 45 degrees, and then they're going to open up the target to me just slightly. Now from here, I'm going to take about 1 mat distance away from the target, and I'm going to be working on getting a perfect placement of my foot onto that target, kick a little bit through, and then land in a nice position so I can work on moving on to the next technique. So from here, slow motion, I'm going to bring my knee up straight first, pivot sideways, and then I'm going to kick through. Just like this. So when you guys are training, I want you guys to be working on about 20 to 30 reps on each side. And again, we're gonna go for 3 sets so we could really start building that muscle memory. The skipping roundhouse kick, also known as 바른발 돌려차기 in Korean, is using our front leg to attack the opponent instead of using the back leg for the roundhouse kick. So when we start off, we're going to be thinking of switching my front foot with my back foot and chambering my front foot. So if earlier for the back leg roundhouse kick, we brought this back leg up to chamber. For the front leg skipping roundhouse kick or the fast kick, we're gonna think about bringing this knee up while I bring my back foot to my front foot, just like this. Once you're able to get to that position, just like the roundhouse kick, you're going to try and snap that front leg out and then land in your same stance since we're using our front leg. So full speed, we're going to get into chamber and then snap out like this. From the side, so you guys can get a better view, this back foot is going to come exactly where the front foot is, and the front foot is going to be the one snapping out to the opponent. So from here, when drilling the front leg roundhouse kick or the skipping roundhouse kick, we're going to work on having the partner hold their front hand out. So if I'm kicking with my left leg, they're going to be also holding their front left hand out. So I have the representation of someone's chest like I was sparring them. Now before I kick, I want to make sure that I'm not too close and I'm not too far, right? I want to be in a nice middle distance. And what my focus should be is this bottom foot, I really want to get to where that front foot is. So if I do not do that, I'm going to land in this wide stance. Whereas if I'm able to switch where my feet position is, I'm able to get that nice telegraph, almost like I'm skipping over the ground and extending my body. So from here, do you see how I traveled like that? So I want you guys to try and work on through this kick. I'd say about 30 reps each side. So then again, we can work on our muscle memory. And then once we master this kick, we can work on the next 앞발, which is a little bit more tricky, but a little bit more effective in modern game sparring. The front leg roundhouse kick, also known as 앞발, is going to be a little bit different than the skipping roundhouse kick. When we go for the front leg roundhouse kick, we're going to load our back leg first. So when we're in our stance, I want you to load this back leg first. That way it's much easier to pick up our front leg. Whereas if I'm loading my front leg, all of my balance is on that one, right? So I want to load this back leg. And from here, I want to think about lifting this front leg first and then pushing off the floor with this back leg into the chamber. So once again, I'm going to load this back leg. I pick up the knee first, push off, and then once I get to there, all that's left is the snap. So full speed, I'm going to come here, lift it up, snap forward. Once more. Side view. When drilling the 앞발, we're going to make sure that we're a little bit closer than we were for the skipping roundhouse kick. That's because we're not going to be covering as much ground, and it's designed to be a little bit of a more close range technique, less telegraphing from my feet, okay? So I'm going to be at about an arm's length from the target. Again, if I'm using my front leg, my left leg, my partner will be also holding with their left hand. And from here, I'm going to make sure that I'm loading this back leg. So then that way my front of my body doesn't have to come all the way back and then kick. I can just kick very comfortably from here, right? So once I bring my knee up, I want to be making sure that this bottom heel is turning and then I'm kicking through so I get that nice 앞발. I want you guys to work around 20 times each leg. I want you guys to focus on one leg at a time. So we're going to go for 20 reps and 3 sets. And then after you finish your left leg, I want you to move on to the right leg and do the same. The cut kick is the most widely used technique in modern day sparring. In Korean, it's also known as 앞발 밀기. When doing the cut kick, I want you guys to focus on loading that back leg so you have a nice base to support this front leg extending out. After you load that back leg, I want you to pick this front knee up and I want you to focus on getting a nice tight chamber, all right? Just like when you go to jab, if you jab with a straight arm, you're not gonna get any pop on that jab, right? Same thing with the cut kick. I'm going to make sure that I get a nice tight chamber. And then once I've chambered, if you could look at my back leg, I'm going to use it as a spring to push myself forward, and then I can extend out sideways, all right? So from here again, I'm going to load the back leg, chamber up my front knee into my chest, push off the back leg and extend at the same time. Full speed. When drilling the cut kick, we're going to use a big square bag because we're able to put a little bit more impact into it compared to the small mitts. You're going to start off in that back leaning stance, just like earlier. So then that way I have a nice spring to pop off into the bag. And I'm going to work on getting my knee into my chest. And when I extend, it should be fully extended through. I don't want you guys to be hitting and snapping it back just yet, because we're not working on a double or triple cut kick, we're working on a single kick, right? So I want you guys to lean back, bring this front leg, and get a nice good push. After that, land in a nice stance, and then we're gonna be ready for the next technique. So from here, when I'm kicking, I wanna make sure that I'm not skipping into the kick because that's a different type of cut kick. Again, I want to make sure that I'm lifting my front leg first and pushing off this back leg. Since this is a front leg technique, I would recommend going for 20 reps, 3 sets on one side first, and then after that, you can move on to the other side so we can balance out those reps. The skipping cut kick, also known as 바른발 밀기, in Korean, is very similar to the regular cut kick. The only difference is I'm going to literally be skipping before I kick. This is used so I can cover distance instead of it being a short range jab. It's going to be a little bit more of a long range extension, okay? So just like the skip and roundhouse kick, I'm going to think about switching the position of my back leg with my front leg. But unlike the roundhouse kick chamber, I'm going to be pulling this knee tight into my chest, almost like a piston, so I can push out and extend strongly. So from here, step 1, and then once you guys get that nice chamber, you can extend through and then land in a nice stance. So full speed. In order to drill the skipping cut kick, I want you guys to take a little bit more distance back from the target than we did with the regular cut kick. So if I started off here for the regular cut kick, because it's a little bit of a close range, maybe not close, but medium to close range technique, I'm going to act like there's a little bit more distance between me and the opponent. That way I can work on covering that distance and still extending and making that point, okay? So before I start, a few key points is that I want to make sure that my body is not going first. If my body goes first, I'm at risk to get hit with a range of techniques such as an up-eye over the head. I get caught with the other person's cut kick as well, right? So I want to make sure that my body is still a little bit backwards and I'm pushing my hips into the target to travel and cover that distance. So from here, and we're gonna work on a little bit more explosivity with this. So I'd say about 12 reps, you get nice, good explosive reps. Take a little bit of rest, so about 30 seconds, and then go again with that same side. We're gonna go for just 3 sets, 12 reps, and then switch over to the other side as well. For the back leg axe kick, also known as 뒷발치기 in Korean, we're going to come into our stance and think about bringing my knee up almost like a back leg teep in other sports. So if we're thinking about a Muay Thai style or MMA style teep, I'm bending that knee into my chest so I can get a nice chamber in order to push out straight. Now for the back leg axe kick, instead of pushing out straight, I'm gonna think about drawing a rainbow over the opponent. So what I mean by that is, if you look at this sideways, I'm gonna bring my knee up and try and get it over this hurdle. So if I think that there's a person in front of me, I'm going to trace their shoulder and then bring it over, okay? So unlike a traditional axe kick, maybe in karate that you see it goes straight up and straight down with a straight knee, just like this, we're gonna think about bending that knee and then extending over the person's head, so then that way I can clear their shoulder and also be ready for the next technique. Drilling the back leg axe kick, I want to have my partner hold with their left hand if I'm kicking with my left leg, so the same side, but instead of being in a closed stance, I'm going to be in an open stance with them. Now from here, they're going to take the target and turn their wrist so it opens up like this, and then that way I can imagine in my head that this is my opponent's head and then this is their shoulder that I have to clear. So when I bring the kick up, if I see that the kick is coming up sideways, I know that it's unrealistic. I want to draw a straight line, straight through, get over the target, and then think about smashing down. So to give you guys a different angle, I want to make sure that you guys are clearing the opposite side of the target and then drawing that rainbow just like earlier. So I don't want to bring it up to the outside. I want to almost cut this inside angle and then bring it straight down on that target, which in my head, I'm thinking that is the opponent's headgear. When drilling the front leg axe kick, I want you guys to set up with your partner so you're in about a medium distance. And this is going to be replicated in a situation where the opponent is coming into you. So they're closing the distance. That way I can think in my head how tight of a chamber I need to make in order to clear their shoulder. So instead of holding the target up first, the opponent is going to have their hand down just like that. And then once they lift their arm, I'm going to time this front leg axe kick so that it doesn't hit their arm or it doesn't hit their hand. It clears that target, and then I'm able to get that nice point on the target. So from here, once they give it to me, the cover punch can be used in a variety of ways, but today we're going to be covering how to block the person's front leg attack and also punch at the same time. So it's not a defensive technique, but it's also not totally an offensive one either. So I want you guys to start off in a little bit more of a wide stance and have your front hand forward. This way I can either block, swipe, or use my hand to push that front leg away so I don't have to worry about it. And then I'm going to use my backhand to fully extend through, so then that way I can score that punch and show the judges that I made a nice punch point. So from here, I'm going to drop my front hand and then use my backhand to punch at the same time. The cover punch is a reactive technique. So in order to drill it, I'm going to have my partner be in the open stance with me, and I'm going to be bouncing, being in my stance, getting comfortable. And from here, it's going to be on my holder's accord to lift their front leg. And whenever I see that front leg lifted as the person punching, I'm going to drop that front hand and punch at the same time. So I'm working on that timing of the technique. So I'll bounce around, and whenever I see that front leg, I'm gonna block and punch at the same time. So again, just like this. After I do that, from here, once I get that technique, I can work on coming into the clinch. So then that way I don't risk getting scored on in that middle distance. Or I could punch, follow with the kick, and then get out of that distance as well. So if you found this helpful and you're looking to learn more kicks, skills, and Taekwondo tactics, make sure you click the link below in the description to join the Taekwondo Fury Institution. And I'm looking forward to see you guys on the mats.